It's over for XRP, and Swift just replaced
it. Some of the hundreds of comments out there that are concerned with the Swift announcement of them introducing their own blockchain-based.
Yeah, so Swift saw this as a competition, XRP competition. Of course, they were aware of it, and they want to build something of their own. But again, they're competing in a completely competitive market that XRP has been building for 13 years. Can they outperform that?
Ledger, and how perhaps this may affect the likes of XRP and the XRP ledger. Does it make it irrelevant? I think many people are asking, and the short answer is no. It's a multi-chain world that we're moving towards.
And again, you don't need to just be on one chain. It's not going to be like a big corporation where everything's going to be on one chain. It could be that they are just building for their own customer base, right? They will never work with XRP because it's their competitor. So it makes total sense for them to build something of their own value.
And one chain isn't going to be able to do everything. Even if you look at what Swift do, they do the equivalent of the world's GDP in terms of value transfer every 2 to 3 days. Do you think that that's just going to occur on one ledger, being Swift's ledger that it's doing with around about 30 banks?
So, I mean, yeah, Swift has that advantage because it was the first one, but XRP even said if we just take a small portion of Swift market cap, they don't have to take 100%. It's already going to vastly outperform, the future potential. Like, it's already going to be as big as NVIDIA. It's one of the biggest companies right now. There's 900 employees, which is a ton.
And the interesting thing with those 30 banks is many of them actually have connections to Ripple themselves, or are actually on Ripple's network, or have been testing. So the announcement obviously yesterday, and we've got a really interesting video lined up for you, because one thing that we put forward yesterday is despite them announcing this blockchain-based ledger, we don't know all the ins and outs of it. And we don't know if it's going to kind of be a ledger of ledgers, as it were. A blockchain-based ledger, so a ledger based around multiple different blockchains. And we don't know quite what role it's going to play. One role that
I think it's still confidential, so nobody copies it. But Swift to add blockchain-based ledger to its infrastructure stack, and groundbreaking move to accelerate and scale benefit of digital finance across more than 200 countries and territories worldwide. They're just going on and adapting. You can't be annoyed at them for that. What they're doing is they adapt to the market. They don't want XRP, which they have XRP is doing right now, to take all of the market cap.
I think it's going to play is providing liquidity. And we're going to listen to an individual from Swift recently, a few days ago, who was interviewed with Sergey from Chainlink, the CEO of Chainlink Labs. And he says something interesting in regards to now their customers who have been demanding the implementation of DLTs will be able to explore new paths of liquidity, which Swift haven't announced. As far as I'm aware, there is only one cryptocurrency that can provide that, and that is XRP. So we will be covering that.
There's going to be other competitors, but to catch up to XRP is going to be very hard.
That predominantly in this video. But it's interesting that with the Swift announcement, they announced all of these banks here. There's a big list of them. And the interesting thing is quite a few of these actually have partnered directly with Ripple or indirectly. Like AK Bank, that was reported as part of Ripple's partner banks list, e.g. banks partnered with Ripple include AK Bank, we'll show you that in just a second, ANZ, historical...
okay, so a lot of them are still partnering. I feel like XRP's plan is about 4 years in. So it's going to take 4 years for them to do these big plans they have. Ripple is basically setting up for the future. In my personal opinion, I think that's what's going to happen. I think it's moving way slower than you guys expect technology. All this Ripple cannot handle even 1% of the world yet. It's going to see pumps now, but the real money is going to come after, in my personal opinion.
Reports of experimentation/trials with Ripple's technology. Banco Santander, publicly known as a Ripple-connected bank, e.g. via Ripple's OnePayFX. Bank of America have cited in media as testing Ripple solutions. They've also got patents involving Ripple. And we've got BBVA, named amongst banks that have joined Ripple's network. MUFG, of course, we know about, frequently listed as a RippleNet participants or partner bank. Standard Charter, of course, known to have had a strategic involvement with Ripple, invested use of RippleNet, and Westpac reports that Westpac Australia experimented or tested Ripple technology in previous years. There are a lot more connections, but it's round about 12 of those banks that were listed as being the kind of banks that are going to help facilitate with Swift this blockchain-based ledger. Actually already have connections with Ripple, which is interesting. But what I
mean, they could be like getting connections with both, and then they would pick the right one, right? The one that provides more value, in my opinion. That's a very big possibility. So I guess that's what could happen in what Ripple's long-term plan is, in my opinion.
Because we there's a lot we don't know about Swift's new blockchain-based ledger and its role. One role that I don't think it's going to be able to achieve, which is kind of the secret source of Ripple and XRP as an asset, is to be able to provide that on-demand liquidity. I see XRP, and we looked at this in yesterday's video, and this is kind of continuation of it, to hopefully clarify what's going on and answer some of the questions that people have. XRP as a watering hole filled with liquidity that everybody will go to drink from. And what I mean by that is XRP, I think, is going to play a role in the world that we're moving towards as being the enabler for cross-currency transactions. So in a world where the dollar is the only currency, you don't need to facilitate cross-border transactions. In a world where you have multiple different currencies, you need bridge asset, an asset that can have that liquidity in it via having a high market cap, that will be able to allow for the facilitation of transactions.
So this is where XRP wins. So Swift wins in sending transfers, but XRP has been very vocal about their plan, which is basically when somebody will have a US dollar or even vice versa. Let's say they have a Mexican peso. They will want to buy some USD. Now they can keep it on the chain. And again, a lot of people want to get, they blame the dollar and whatever. But the dollar is still very strong compared to some other currencies, which I don't want to name, and then they're going to hold with their, for example, pesos or whatever, they're going to hold the US dollar. And this is going to make it very cheap in transfer fees, which seems that, XRP will win that way and get these transfers, which will burn XRP. So hopefully you understood what I just said.
That currently take place today. Right now, that's done in the form of correspondent banking. And in your Nostro Vostro accounts, you have, I think it's $27 trillion sat there in parked capital. That has to be there as pre-funded accounts to enable the kind of global world in regards to FX transfers that takes place. XRP is a solution to that. And actually, we're going to look at what Swift's Chief Innovation Officer has to say in regards to what his customers can now start to explore. And the interesting thing is, the ledger that they announced isn't tackling this problem. Nothing out there, to my knowledge, is solving the problem of liquidity between correspondent banking like XRP is. And it's a new paradigm. It's a new way of correspondent banking working. And I don't think people quite understand that Chainlink is not a competitor to XRP or some of the other public blockchains out there. And it's a few bad actors that are propagating this narrative right now in regards to Chainlink replaces all public distributed ledgers. I don't understand that. To me, Chainlink actually enables them. And enables the traditional financial space to gain access to them in this kind of standardized manner, being perhaps Chainlink CCIP or their Oracle data feeds. So let's dive into what this individual from Swift said with Sergey Nazarov, who of course is...
the thing is, we are still super early stages, and this is basically going to be a huge battle to fight for the market cap in that sense. That's all there is to it. They're fighting for the market cap of these big trillions and trillions of dollars. It's probably one of the most expensive battles there will be because the technology is really changing and people are going for different plans right now. They're going for, actually changing the whole system. And when you change the whole system, of course, you have, suppliers for that. And the suppliers are XRP and Swift and some other smaller projects like Stellar, for example. Stellar is going very hard on online working with PayPal and stuff like that. But XRP and Swift are going for banks.
CEO, and he says something very interesting, certainly in regards to liquidity, which we know XRP is there to address.
allow you to differentiate yourself and to service your customers better. And that's really what we're seeing. The second part of the answer is we see the demand from the customers.
You see that growth in demand.
Yeah, and on the innovation kind of arc, when people know something's possible, they spend a lot more time and a lot more energy on it. But like you said, if there was bad news or people weren't quite sure, hey, we're not really going to move on this because there's uncertainty. Whether it's good uncertainty or bad uncertainty, but markets need certainty. And when they see that and they go, okay, now that exists, now I got something to work with. Now I'm going to spend some cycles on research. Now I'm going to spend some time thinking about, new models for liquidity. I'm going to spend some time thinking about, new models for liquidity. And so,
kind of makes sense. Like what they're saying here right now is there's going to be probably partnerships at some point with all of these together.
I wouldn't say that's the complete flywheel, but it definitely helps pick.
I don't think XRP and Swift will ever work together, though. That's going to be a big problem, a no-no for them, because it's two competitors like McDonald's and Burger King. You go to McDonald's or you eat Burger King. Each is the same. Each is a burger. It's just the quality is the difference.
Momentum.
Yeah.
So there was a great uncertainty put around, obviously, XRP with the old SEC waging war upon it. He says something very interesting there. He says, now people can start to explore new forms of liquidity. And XRP is literally a paradigm shift, a complete overhaul of how correspondent banking has previously worked, and potentially an implementation of an entirely new way of doing things via XRP. And if it's successful in that use case, which I think it potentially is going to be, the value of it, I think, is far beyond even my comprehension, as it is going to serve really a role as a kind of global, neutral bridge, world reserve currency. And everything that's been announced really doesn't change any of that. What I want to do, I've got a number of clips for you, is play you a clip quickly of Chris Larson back at Sibos 2014, where he actually talks about how the networks, whether that be Swift or Visa or Earthport, can essentially plug into this and actually use and utilize it for their customers, which we just heard the Swift CIO, Chief Innovation Officer, actually just say that now there's that certainty. People are going to look to explore in regards to new paradigms for liquidity. Let's dive into this.
Value exchange, and that's really the mission that we're trying to accomplish. What does that mean for financial institutions? Well, it means that banks remain the custodians, but they can also do...
So he's basically, he sold some XRP. I know he sold like 2% of his XRP, but he knows a lot about what's actually happening in the banking system. These are the people that are going to change banks at this scenario.
For that exchange of value. It's a fundamental structural change in correspondent banking. The networks, whether that be Swift or Visa or Earthport, they can also use those same benefits for their customers. The networks, whether that be Swift
what's actually happening
Visa
in the banking system.
Earthport, they can also use those same benefits for their customers. And then for regulators, we actually think this is also a big step forward because you get so much more transparency. It's so much easier to track sort of degrees of separation tools in real time. We think it actually shortens the time it takes to catch the bad guy.
Very interesting, certainly given what Swift's sort of Chief Innovation Officer has just said. A couple more clips for you guys, really just sort of continuing to express what XRP is and how it fits into things. And with the announcements that we've seen, none of its use case is even competed with.
I feel like that's why Swift also, or not Swift, but XRP also went out of their way and started building new products, because this is competition. Obviously, where there's money, there's always going to be competition. And they announced RWA to actually fight for this.
You know, Swift launching their own blockchain-based ledger. Well, there's a lot that we've still got to find out about this. But that doesn't replace XRP in regards to a bridge asset. And even with stable coins and CBDCs, you still need that intermediary to kind of enable the highway of the internet of value to take place. But you still need that piece of technology, that piece of crypto to be implemented to actually allow for one value to transact with another and to be swapped in an efficient manner.
This is going to be a very hard thing to actually, add. So just think about it. This is not going to be an easy process. It's going to be a very hard process to make XRP fast, efficient bridge between two assets. Again, this could take years, guys, because if they make an error, some of this like money could be lost. They must have zero mistakes on this one. I will keep you guys updated on more on this one, guys. Smash that like button if you haven't already, and